Now, can anyone tell me what the plot to the show is? We are halfway through this season, and yet this turd of a show is completely aimless. It just goes to show us how incompetent Disney is as a company, because they have been given a golden IP with Star Wars, which could easily make them tons of money, but they don't know what to do with it and lack any talent to create anything good. Someone were to ask you genuinely what has happened in The Mandalorian, you would struggle to give them any sort of answer other than saying fuck all has happened. There has been no character arcs, no major plot points, or significant world building. It actually does the opposite by destroying what little of the world is left, by making the New Republic, and by extension, everything Han, Luke and Leia has ever fought for is now evil and corrupted, and once again shitting on the original trilogy. I did not think there was anything left for Disney to poison, but it just goes to show how much Disney hates Star Wars and wants to destroy its own IP, because deep down they don't actually like this franchise and want to make their own show, but they know nobody would watch them, so they have to dress it up in a Star Wars skin suit. Do not watch this show. Nothing has happened in the first 4 hours and nothing is going to happen in the last 4. It's a boring show with bad characters and terrible action set pieces, so it's not even mildly entertaining. Now, with all that said and done, let's break down the plot. Episode 3 starts off with Mando trying to regain consciousness, because last episode he almost drowned trying to swim in full armor. They decide to head back to Bo-Katan's castle, but on the way back they are attacked by TIE interceptors. Apparently there are still Imperial warlords out there in the galaxy terrorizing people, but the New Republic seems to ignore them and doesn't give a shit. Mando and Bo-Katan end up killing all the TIE interceptors, but Bo-Katan's castle is blown up in the process, so with nowhere to go, Mando decides to take her back to his stupid cult. It is here we cut to Coruscant for almost the entire episode, and we follow some scientist almost nobody remembers from the earlier seasons. Why is it every other TV show wastes episodes by following characters nobody gives a fuck about and don't actually affect the story in any meaningful way? Well, that's because it's nothing but filler and it's only here to pad out the season. It is here we learn that the New Republic is just as evil as the Empire. Let's not forget that Han, Luke and Leia are supposed to be overseeing the formation of the New Republic, and yet somehow it's already a corrupt mess less than a decade after its formation, as The Mandalorian only takes place a few years after the Return of the Jedi. So we now follow a former Empire scientist who has been granted amnesty in the New Republic. He and every other former Imperial officer is allowed to be housed in this complex, unsupervised, and are freely able to come and go as they please. The only thing that the New Republic requires from them is to show up to work and get an occasional psychological evaluation. That's it. They basically have free reign to do whatever they want, which is a massive security threat, but the New Republic don't seem to give a fuck. So he meets a female officer who also served on Moff Gideon's ship with him. As the episode progresses, she slowly tries to convince him to redo his research that he was doing under the Empire, and also tries to get him to steal lab equipment that would make it possible. Now, he doesn't think it's weird that this female officer he just met has taken an interest to him and has started to leave him cookies at his door, and now suddenly wants him to break into a shipyard and steal some equipment. The scientist doesn't find this suspicious and starts thinking with his dick. Well, it turns out that the female officer has set him up. Oh my God! The New Republic captures the scientist, and what do? Well, they strap him to a torture device that lobotomizes people, because the New Republic is a piece of shit. So as the scientist is getting tortured, the guy who is in charge of the mind flayer and his only job is to make sure it goes well, suddenly decides to leave the room. Not only that, he allows the female officer to be left alone in the room with the controls. Well, unsurprisingly, she ends up turning up the machine and potentially killing the scientist.
Are you a complete retard?
Now, what exactly was her game plan? Sure, she got to kill the scientist, but everybody is going to know that she was the one who did it. She is the last person in the room, and the man in charge of the machine, who most likely will go to prison as well, is the last person to see her and a key witness. The most likely outcome is that she herself is going to be put into that same machine.
That's fucking stupid.
For the last 10 minutes of the show, it cuts back to Bo-Katan and Mando, and he gets to rejoin his retarded cult because he is no longer cancelled, all because he took a bath in some dirty water. Bo-Katan is also invited to join the cult as well because she jumped into the water after Mando nearly drowned.
And have you removed your helmet since?
No. Then you may join our covert.
It seems to me that the only rule this cult has is that you must always keep your helmet on. Other than that, they don't seem to have any other rules. And that's the end of episode 3.
Fucking sucks.
This entire episode was a pointless waste of time that followed characters nobody gives a shit about, who also didn't move the story forward at all. Now, if you thought that episode was shit, wait till you see episode 4.
It gets worse!
It begins with the entire Mandalorian clan training. Now, the Mandalorians are supposed to be some of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They are basically Spartans. Do you want to see how these supposed Spartans train? Well, their training practices consist of trying to set one another on fire. Target practice with no actual targets, they just fire randomly into the sea. It's no wonder why that crocodile was so pissed off in episode 1. How would you feel if people kept letting off explosions as you're trying to sleep? And finally, we can see people flying in from the direction of the shooting range. And all of this is happening just a few feet away from each other. How exactly is anybody supposed to hear what's going on when you've got blasters and flamethrowers going off right next to you? So Baby Yoda needs training, and Mando decides to put him up against the boy 10 times his size. This is so dumb that even the boy points it out.
He is too young to speak the creed, and so too young to wear a helmet.
Then he's too young to fight.
Thank you!
They choose to compete with dart, and conveniently they have a dart device that will fit Baby Yoda's arm. So the contest is to shoot each other from 4 feet away with paintball darts.
Why?
And what exactly is this training supposed to be for?
Fuck all.
Anyway, we have a terrible scene where we see Baby Yoda jumping around.
Begin!
What the fuck was that?
This is a multi-million-dollar TV show, and this looks fucking awful, like it was done by a gang of amateurs. Baby Yoda shoots all the paintballs at the boy and wins the contest.
Who gives a shit?
The Mandalorians are then attacked by a flying monster. Jesus Christ, why don't these people move if this place is so dangerous? The monster abducts a child and they give chase, but they end up running out of fuel.
I'm out of fuel.
Now that was obvious as fuck, but the writers of the show didn't think you could put that together.
It always gets away.
What?
So this isn't the first time this monster has stolen a child, and yet they still choose to live on this shithole of a planet. Also, if you knew you couldn't catch up to it, then what was the point in chasing it in the first place? Because not only did you fail to grab the boy, but now you have left yourself stranded in the middle of nowhere, and you're going to have to trek miles back to the camp, where you could potentially get attacked on the way back by more monsters, or possibly die from a heat stroke as you're not allowed to take off your helmet, and you have to walk all the way back with that armor on.
This plan is so perfect, it's retarded.
So they fail to rescue the boy, but luckily for them though, Bo-Katan decided to follow the monster in her ship, as she seems to be the only character in the show who is remotely competent. She comes back to camp later on and tells everybody the plan. They have to scale a mountain to reach the nest, and they can't use their jetpacks as the noise would alert the monster. Now the child should be dead at this point. It's already been taken back to the nest, where the monster's children should have eaten him alive. Mando goes with the group and leaves Baby Yoda behind. Baby Yoda has a flashback to how he escaped the Jedi Temple.
And it's terrible.
The writers had 3 years to come up with an explanation. Let's see what it is. It starts off with the Jedi protecting Baby Yoda, and 2 of them are killed immediately. But the other 2 Jedi just walk away and the clones stop shooting at them. This is such an easy mistake to spot, and the fact that the directors haven't fixed it can only mean that the showrunners couldn't give a flying fuck about the quality of the show. They are just there to cash in the checks, nothing more. So they get Baby Yoda into the elevator and all the Jedi die. The clones then directly fire at Baby Yoda 3 feet from him and somehow miss every shot.
How could you miss?
Baby Yoda makes it to the outside where a Jedi is waiting for him. So whilst the purge was going on, this Jedi was just waiting outside the entire time instead of, I don't know, maybe trying to save the other younglings. Now this Jedi is supposed to take Baby Yoda safely away, and yet he has no getaway vehicle for him to escape in. He's the getaway driver and he forgot to bring his car.
That was your job, you fucking moron!
Conveniently for him, a bunch of retarded clone troopers arrive with bikes for him to steal.
Oh, how convenient!
The clone troopers then fire at him one at a time.
This is how it goes. You attack me one at a time, and I knock you out with a single punch, okay?
Now the actor who plays this Jedi is Amit Best, who played Jar Jar Binks in the prequels. I only mention this because the media acts like the fans drove him away. The internet was barely a thing back then. It was the fucking media that persecuted him, the lying pieces of shit. A big chase scene happens and the Jedi gets Baby Yoda to a ship that is already primed for takeoff.
What a load of bollocks.
How exactly did this Jedi somehow manage to find the time and means to arrange for all of this to happen? The Jedi have only just been attacked and were caught completely off guard, and somehow this Jedi already has a ship ready to go. Now there's only two explanations possible. Either he knew in advance that the temple was going to be attacked and told nobody, or maybe this show is badly written and poorly thought out. My money's on the latter. What's even worse is that the clone troopers show up and instead of blowing up the escape vehicle with their gunship, they just land right next to it and give them the opportunity to fly away.
Well, that's just silly.
Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
I must remind everybody, they had 3 years to come up with an explanation, and this is the one they give us. This is some shitty fan theory that you would find on Reddit, not in a multi-million-dollar TV show. Anyway, after that bullshit backstory, Baby Yoda is given some more armor.
I don't give a fuck.
We then cut to Mando, who is heading towards the nest. They end up stopping and making camp for the night. Because why not? I'm sure the monsters haven't eaten him a day after they caught him. Bo-Katan asks Mando how are they going to eat if they can't take their helmets off in front of each other.
When you get your food, you go off to find a place where you can take off your helmet.
Sure, split up. What a good idea. What exactly is going to happen if you get attacked? If someone starts firing, you don't know who's on your side. Not only that, what happens if somebody falls off a cliff and dies? This is not only dangerously stupid, it's also very impractical as well. The next morning they begin to climb, but for some reason they have chosen to go in full armor instead of putting on something lighter and more practical. They reach the nest and one of the Mandalorians runs out and alerts the monsters. The mother gets back to the nest and only now regurgitates the boy.
What?
So that boy has been inside the stomach of that mother the entire time. How exactly was the boy able to breathe and why hasn't he been digested? The mother, who has found people in her nest, decides to leave her babies behind and run away.
I find it highly unlikely.
They end up killing the monster by tying it up mid-air and it falls into another crocodile pit. The group ends up enslaving the 3 baby monsters and taking them back to the camp to be used as weapons. And these people are supposed to be the good guys.
You have done the highest honor of the creed, saving a foundling.
Maybe if you move the clan somewhere remotely safer, then stupid shit like this would stop happening. The fact that the monster has killed several foundlings and you did nothing about it not only proves that you're a terrible leader, but that you are also responsible for the death of those children. The episode ends with Bo-Katan getting a new piece of armor.
What a load of rubbish.
These 2 episodes were such a waste of time that one of them even decided to follow a nobody character around for most of the episode. Now, if I had to describe the condition of Star Wars, I would compare it to a patient that's been in a coma for years, and Disney is the friendly doctor who, when the lights go out, he sneaks into the room every night and rapes Star Wars.
That's disgusting.
That is the relationship between Disney and Star Wars. Nothing has happened and nothing will happen for the rest of the season. There is no point in watching it anymore. So yeah, that was The Mandalorian.
That was awful.